everyone. Welcome to the Yacht Talk podcast. Today I am here at Pier 66 Hotel with Tomas Addoms from Yacht Toys and Technology. And we're going to be sharing with you all the new advancements and the most popular toys out there for yacht owners. So how are you doing, Tomas?
Fantastic, wonderful, and amazing.
That's great to hear. So, Tomas, would you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in the marine industry, and how you got to opening your own business?
Absolutely. Yep. Been in yachting for about 8 years, going on 9 years. Super yachting, working with builders, refit, and captains and crew and play. I started with as the director of sales and marketing for a toy manufacturer globally, and through that experience was able to take the different yachts that I'd worked on in various parts of the world, and work with the captains and different crew and even owners to supply them with water toys and make sure that they're brought to the yacht and fit on the vessel, delivered on time and on budget. So through working as the director of sales and marketing for the manufacturer globally, about 9 months ago, I branched off and started my own company, and I represent, multiple products now, including technology products as well.
Amazing. Well, it's a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
My pleasure.
And let's start with our questions.
Sure.
So, first question. How do you assess a yacht's needs regarding their toys and technology?
Great question. I think the majority of the time, we work with, the captain. Sometimes it can be a broker. It could be an owner's representative, either technical manager, maybe even a purchasing manager, or it can be multiple individuals within that, those different, means of that network for some of these projects. So it really comes down to that initial discovery period, sitting down, asking the right questions in terms of the vessel, how it's going to be used, what the culture is going to be like, what their goals are for the vessel, where they plan on traveling, and really stepping into their shoes to understand as much as you can so that you can guide them along the way in making the best decision for what's going to work best for them in terms of their goals initially through the process, which sometimes can take years, months and years, to really being delivered, and ultimately, most importantly, in real time. So as it's in play out there on the water and as they're, cruising. So, yeah.
Okay. And what uses do yacht owners give to their tenders? So, first subject,
Sure.
tenders.
Absolutely. And there's a variety of different boats that accompany a yacht, and it depends again, kind of, I'll probably answer this, a lot of these questions with similar response, but again, what their goals are, what they plan on doing with the vessel, if they plan on staying private, or if they plan on chartering, if they're going to have guests, and if, for example, if they're going to be a busy charter, then they might have multiple tenders with multiple purposes, depending on the size of the boat, and working from, let's just say, in reverse. You have to look at the storage, the crew, how many crew, the intention of the architect, and how they design the boat, its intended purpose for the owner. Again, going back to being private or charter, but again, as a charter, they might have multiple vessels. One might be a limo that only takes passengers to and from an event from the boat to a port, and carries luggage and passengers. And then others, there might be sport boats, which are ever more popular for water sports, for wakeboarding, and towables and things like that. There are tenders that are used for diving as well, or maybe just for crew transport or multiple uses. So again, it kind of just comes down to stepping into the shoes of the owner, the captain, learning more about what their objectives are for the vessel and its use, and working in reverse. Sometimes you will work with a naval architect, eventually get a general arrangement, and look very closely and work with a dynamic team in many cases. Again, owner's rep, technical manager, purchasing manager, or even a broker, owner's rep, and making sure that the owner's needs ultimately are met, and that it plays out in real time, and that includes kind of the tenders as well, and how they work, they live, they function, how they're cleaned, the space, how they deploy, how they retract. So you have to take a lot of those factors into consideration, and and that's where we'll also reach out to other companies, and bring them in, especially if things get really technical, and we want to cross the T's and dot the I's and make sure we hit a home run. We'll bring in other companies like DLBA, naval architects, and have them put everything under the microscope and ask tough questions sometimes in the best way we can. Or nautical structures, for example, for discussing deploying tenders, and how those, or even submarines or jet skis and lifting systems, to make sure that all the points are measured, so that in real time it plays out well and everybody has fun.
Interesting. And what factors make yacht owners decide to have a tender or not? Because not all yachts have tenders, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I don't. It depends on the size. If we're talking about a smaller yacht, they may or may not have a tender on board. But I'd say once you get into the 70, maybe 80 foot and above, a lot of times they may want to bring their yacht into an area that you would only be able to access by tender, or a beach location or something like that. So if you're talking about a smaller vessel, they may be able to maneuver into areas, or be able to moor or dock, or get close enough to a beach access to where they wouldn't have a tender, or maybe just not even have the space available on board. But the bigger boats, I would say 70, 80 foot and up, you're more than likely going to have they're more than likely going to want something to have on board. And then if you get into super yachting, 100, 125 foot and up, then you might have multiple tenders. And again, kind of going back to the last question, you kind of step in their shoes and figure out if it's going to be a rib on a 125 Westport, then it might be a multiple use tender that could ferry the crew, and also be used for sporting or diving, or used for wakeboarding and towables. So so I think the smaller yachts, in conclusion, may not, but the larger yachts definitely tend to have at least one, if not two or three, depending on the size.
So the size of the tenders and the amount of tenders depends on the amount of staterooms in the yacht, the amount of guests that will be on it?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a new build or a project that's in refit and there's adjustments being made, you want to go, typically you'll get a general arrangement, which is a digital version or blueprint of the boat. And by again looking at it from that perspective, you'll be able to figure out, with the space available and what type of cranes and logistics are available for deployment retraction, what type of how many crew they're going to have on that specific vessel, and really almost looking at it from the end moving forward, with that space available, you're very quickly going to realize, this garage that this tender needs to fit into only has so much space to work within. Well, then that means it could very well eliminate an outboard engine, because it would require a jet engine or inboard engine in order to just move it inside and outside of the garage. So based on the logistics, based on their objectives, based on the space available, you'll be able to determine the size of the vessel, and a lot of times the different features and components that'll be built into the tender in order to decide where it's going to live, how it's going to deploy, and how it's going to retract. Again, kind of going back to, and you'll revisit a lot of these questions through that process over and over again, because sometimes those values will change based on budget, based on time, delivery. Sometimes you'll get a phone call and say, I'll get a request for something to be delivered very quickly, and in which case you have to move quickly, and based on their situation, put together some options that not only delivers it on time but on budget, but then also meets the local registry requirements for certifications and meeting those needs as well, because they all vary. So it's fluid, and that's why it takes a village.
And I have a question about where people put their tenders, because I've seen yachts having the tenders on the swim platform, on the fly bridge. Some yachts even tow the tender if they don't have space for it. But I guess on larger yachts, they have a garage for it. That's usually how people do it.
And there are more and more creative spaces. It's actually pretty amazing what the naval architects are coming up with, and there are even designs out there where the tender will actually drive into the vessel and park inside. Now they have garages on both sides with cranes that will come out and lift the tenders in. They'll live on the bow, and they'll even have garages within the bow. So garage doors will open in the bow. Some of them will live on the sun deck. Some of them will live on the swim platform. So it just depends on how the boat is designed. Again, if they're buying a boat that's existing or if it's a new build, really it's almost limitless. Other than maybe living on the owner's deck, because the owner's deck is usually pretty private and they don't want a bunch of stuff up there. The options are even with, I've seen them now where they're living inside the bow, and they'll come out of garage doors, port and starboard, or up, on deck. With so many new designs, builders, and ideas, the creativity behind it seems to be limitless, and it always keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. Okay, so now next subject, jet skis.
Sure.
What different kinds of jet skis are there?
They're all petrol based at this point, but there are emerging companies that have, just like Tesla, for example. So that there are emerging companies that have developed electric jet skis that are, moving in the right direction. I think they still have a little bit of work to do, but they're all, petrol based, and kind of going back around to that initial, how do you make that decision? It depends on the vessel and what it is that they plan on using the jet skis for. I'm working on a 112 over on the west coast of Florida, and he just has a small swim platform. It's the only place that he can fit the jet ski, and so it's by process of elimination. you only have so much room, and he has very few options in terms of the size of the jet ski, which is going to determine the amount of power and the amount of riders, and then the capability of what that jet ski would be able to do. And the other, in terms of integration with jet skis, there's certifications, and with crew, they have to have, be trained up and be certified to manage jet skis, especially in, charter environment for safety reasons. And then there's, again, ship registry in different areas. They're going to have their own regulations and requirements as well. So you have to look at all of those things, including where is it going to live, how's it going to be deployed, how's it going to be retracted, what are the lifting systems, what type of harnessing, and all of those can be customized, and a lot of times are, to fit the jet skis. And a lot of the decisions are made by the owner or the captain or management, based on their objectives. Again, are they going to be private? Is it going to be charter? And then from there, look, if they're a bigger boat and they have more, they're going to be a big charter, busy charter. They've got options. They can look at bigger, three-seat jet skis with a lot more power, and even customize them with different color and even the branding of the vessel, and get real creative and have a lot of fun with it. So all those options are available. You just have to sit down and kind of learn what it is that they're, what their objectives are as a yacht, and as they're cruising. And of course, if they're looking to move quickly and it's something that they need, to meet a timeline, and then you have to be on your toes and have a good network that you can work with and manage logistics in order to make sure you're on budget and on time.
Nice. Okay. And what's the difference between a jet ski and a wave runner?
There's no real difference, except for they're different brands. There are different manufacturers that have their definition of what they call their skis. So it's they're the main ones are Sea-Doo, Yamaha, Kawasaki. There's stand-up jet skis as well, and they use them for more performance and for racing and things like that. But the technical and the simple answer is there's really no real difference other than their own version of what they called, from the manufacturer's point of view. So, yeah. So some, I think Yamaha is Wave Runner. I believe that's their brand. Sea-Doo. People are even calling them Sea-Doos now. So, so just as I'm saying I'm going to UPS something or I'm going to FedEx it. It's just your own version or interpretation.
Okay. And why do people prefer to buy their own jet skis instead of renting them at marinas?
Yeah, good question. They still do that rent as an option. In my experience, usually jet ski rentals, and I'm not saying this about all jet ski rental companies, but they don't have a tendency to be yacht class. They really expect the best. And in terms of service and logistics, if they go out and they rent them for a charter, and there's an issue, they just don't have the tendency to be, again, to the same standards that, yachts and super yachts have that expectation. So if a lot of times what I'll recommend, and, through my network, there are options to buy back the jet ski. So if they don't, if they had a charter, or it was just an owner's trip for a holiday, this comes up during Christmas time. Hey, we're going to the Caribbean, and the owner has, for the month of December wants, 2 jet skis and, this particular color, if possible. What I'll recommend is, I'll provide some options based on the logistics and, again, stepping into their shoes, and then suggest, the purchase of it. and then we would work on buying those back and reselling them, versus spending $300 or $400 a day, which can add up to thousands and 1000s of dollars. It'll be a lot more cost effective. You'll get what you want. You'll get better quality. It makes best sense for the yacht in that situation.
Yeah, you're right. Very nice. Okay, now next subject. Water toys. Which other water toys are popular on yachts?
Yeah, no, good question, and that's part of the job, and keeping my thumb on the pulse on what's popular. What I found is a lot of what is emerging out of Europe. They seem to set a trend, and electric jet boards are very popular. Jet Surf, the brand, the manufacturer, merged with an engine, a petrol driven electric surfboard, basically, that has a tethered that you can drive and ride on, and then from there, electronic technology always emerging. There are other companies that came out and kind of struggled a little bit. Had to kind of work out some of the bugs. Even a few companies had to rebrand and reemerged, and I think have come out pretty well. But I would say the electric jet boards are out in force. The other thing I see are the underwater drones. I think those are emerging in a more dynamic way. And there's even, and when I say underwater drones, not tethered. So they're in past there have been tethered drones that will go down 40 meters, 50 meters, and then now they have them where they're wireless. So there's options, and they're getting better at working out their technology, some of the bugs and everything. And then even now, sea bobs, they're always, a popular kind of must-have on yachts. But there are other companies out there even trying to challenge them. There's a new company called Subblue that's come out. So we'll see how they manage into real-time saltwater, intense, harsh environments, and manage the service behind that. So even when a yacht makes a request and says, hey, I want these things, want to make sure we're addressing some of the important questions on how it's going to be serviced. If you have an issue and you're on charter, you can't have something break, especially if they paid good money to be on that charter, and you're so quote unquote dead in the water. It's not going to make them happy. So you want to make sure you have a good plan, a good product, and that's part of that consultation that we provide.
Nice. Okay, well, I was going to ask you, what are the new trends on yacht toys? Are there any new developments? You mentioned some, but is there anything else you would like to add?
In terms of trends, I would say, owners and captains are always trying to push to extremes, so I've seen now ATVs, going on board, even amphibious ATVs. Obviously, some of your more intense explorer yachts, they like the submarines, and the classics are always there, and even simply just going in diving excursions, hookah excursions for those who aren't certified divers. They can go underwater and have that experience. So we work with Brownie's Yacht Diver with their aqualung systems for the novice diver. And always the go-tos are, if you've got a tender, the wakeboards, and even now hydrofoil seems to be, ever popular, whether it's hydrofoil, wakeboarding, electric hydrofoil jet boards. So there's a lot of that type of technology that I think has, in addition, kind of come to the table, and people are exploring that. It seems to be doing pretty well.
Nice. Next subject, electric bikes. I was looking at your website and I found it so interesting that there's the option to have electric bikes on your yacht, right? So can you talk a little bit more about the benefits of having electric bikes on your yacht?
Yeah, absolutely. The big part of having an electric bike is not having to do the work, and so if you're going a long distance, it gives you the ability, of a lot of these bikes now will travel, an hour, just, at full steam, if not more. A big trend, and this goes back to, just the yacht environment is always storage. And so these electric bikes like the Go Cycle and Jupiter bikes has emerged, and there's a handful of others regarding the electric bikes is one thing, but now they have electric bikes that are portable, transportable, and stowable. So they fold up and they compact really well. So I think the combination of both of those features in terms of bikes and electric bikes have made it attractive for storage and also the ability to be easily portable. So a crew member can fold up the bike, literally go into the restaurant and sit down and have a meal or a drink or whatever, go back out, unfold it, pop on, and rock and roll. So I think the combination of those two is the trend, and there's a lot of good options out there.
That's very cool. Okay. And water sports. So we're talking about tenders, right? That can be used for water sports. Which water sports are the most popular for yacht owners? You feel like we already covered that?
I think
right?
we kind of touched that.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll skip that one. Okay, now. Wait. Yes. So next subject, wireless mooring systems.
Technology.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. There's been some great advancements in technology that is a lot of fun and very exciting, and I try to keep my thumb on the pulse of that. Recently went over to Amsterdam for the Met show and met up with a company called iMet, who manufactures in Italy. Had been around for 30 years. And on the commercial side, they've been manufacturing skyscraper cranes, underground drilling equipment, travel lift, super yacht movers, and recently re-entered the marine sector with advancements into mooring technology. So what they've developed is a wireless mooring remote that assists the vessel with a handheld device, wireless device, and assists the owner or captain in the mooring process, which is usually, the most stressful part is docking the boat. So this device allows them to not be stuck at the helm. They can walk to the bow, walk aft, and get a full, a full visual anywhere on the vessel and not be stuck at the helm. And so, that impressed me. And what kind of sets it apart in comparison to everything else, there's another company or two that are out there, is that the range on it is at least 3 to 4 times more powerful. It has more safety and security features than anything that's out in the market. Examples are the kill switch is on the remote itself. I've got an example of it here.
Yeah, you
actually
can show it for the video.
So the wireless remote has a 150 meter range versus say 25 or 50 meter. What really sets it apart is that all the other remotes are it's a one-way frequency, so it acts as a transceiver, a transceiver, in that it sends a signal, but it doesn't act as a receiver and receive a signal. This is the only system that's code encrypted. So it will only send the signal to the receiver, connect, which is code encrypted, send a signal back to this receiver and say, okay, now you can take control of the only vessel, and without any interference at all, take command of the vessel and ensure performance and no interference with any other yachts. The other thing is the kill switch is on the remote itself, It's LED backlit. It's and none of the others have a kill switch on the remote. They're all at the helm. That just kind of defeats the point, in my opinion. They don't offer an LED backlit option. It's made with German and Austrian components versus Chinese. It's water resistant, I65P, 1 meter multiple drop test resistant. It's got military grade switches, and it can be customized, including colors, logos, horn, dual anchor, and the integration is seamless and virtually limitless. So we can configure to almost any vessel, any configuration, and with the history of manufacturing behind this and the power behind it, it is the most powerful and safest remote in the market today. So that's an example of what impressed me and what I brought back in terms of technology. And they even, working with, the crane manufacturers, these remotes can control cranes, passerelles, submersible transoms, garage door openers as well. So limitless in customization. And so far, this for me in 2019 has been the most powerful thing, the most impressive thing that I've seen, and I'm glad to be a part of and bring to market.
And how much does it cost to get one of those wireless docking remotes?
Yeah, good question. It's $12,900 plus installation. Comes with a 2-year warranty, and that includes 8 different functions. I would say in terms of price comparison in the market is the same price as the competitors, if not less, based on the same amount of functions, minus the things that they don't offer. So when you take it into consideration, it's a far better value and the safe, more powerful option to choose from.
Wow,
yeah.
Very cool. And which other advances in yacht technology do you see coming in the near future?
That's a good question. I think automation is a big part of that conversation. Again, going over and talking to and meeting with a lot of people at many different boat shows, I think there are systems out there for managing and automating all the activities on board as they relate to toys, for example, as they relate to technology, whether you're a chief stew or chief or the engineer or captain on board, to have systems on board that will allow you to track all your maintenance, all your warranties, all the toys, all the tenders, all the technology on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. Is a key component to the success and the streamlining day-to-day organizational and operational plans on board, especially when it pertains to charters and management. I think there's a lot of other advancements in audio visual and IT as they relate to certain programs that are being developed in the market, including safety, including security. You hear a lot about cybersecurity, and that's a real thing to consider. It's not something that my company personally harnesses at this point, but sometimes it's not what you know and as much as who you know. And so we've got a great network of people that we work with and keep our thumb on the pulse of what's trending and what's moving forward in the tech side of things.
Wow, that's so exciting. So much interesting stuff. So my last question, are there any recommendations you could give yacht owners that are planning to buy tenders, toys, and technology for their yachts?
Absolutely. I think it comes down to surrounding yourself with the right team, with the people that have your back. that you can trust. A lot of times that's going to be, the captain. Sometimes it's the yacht and their family. It could be the yacht owner's wife has a lot to say a lot of times in terms of how everything plays out on board and what the values and the culture of the vessel will be. So, my job is to be a good listener and to ask the right questions, sometimes more than once. And that is an ever, can be an evolving conversation, especially if you're in a build situation or refit, as it pertains to budget, as it pertains to timelines, delivery expectations, and the vessel, and it's how it's prepared to manage all the different things that they initially want as they compared to maybe what they get on board. Sometimes, in as much as I want to sell toys and tech and make money and be successful, it's been said, and I agree, especially with new boat owners who have a tendency to be kind of the buyers. A lot of times the trend is, hey, I got my new boat, now I want my toys. Go enjoy the boat first. Take a test drive. Go out, spend a few weeks, a month, and really get used to it first. And I think from there you can get a real feel for what's going to work in real time, what your true values are, and even working with your captain or with your crew in order to make sure that you're really going to get what you want long term, and taking that extra time can be a virtue.
To make the right decision.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of an impulse buy.
That's right.
Yes.
As much as I want the impulse buy as well, and they happen. I mean, again, you'll get a captain frantic saying, look, if I don't have this product, then I could lose a charter, or the boss isn't going to be happy on his trip, or this product broke and I need something to replace it on the fly.
Okay. Yeah, but you want the client to be happy long term, right?
Right.
That's the goal.
That's right. And if you pay it forward and you step into their shoes, then you're going to win long term, because they're going to come back again. That's the feather in the cap, right? I mean, that's when you have those recommendations in a small world like this, word of mouth is everything. So.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tomas.
Oh, my pleasure. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate you taking the time as well.
And if people want to contact you for questions or, to buy toys from you, what's the best way to reach you?
Absolutely. You can go to my website, Yacht Toys and tech.com. The name of the company is Yacht Toys and Technology. The website is www.yachttoysandtech.com, TECH. And you can email me as well at YTT at yachttoysandtech.com.
Okay. And I will also have the email and the website on the episode notes.
Very good.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
My pleasure.